Welcome to Northwest Aerospace News Live, where we talk to regional manufacturers and supporting partners about current trends in the aerospace industry. I'm your host and a writer for the magazine, Jennifer Ferrero. Today, we are speaking with Gene Hamacher from TechHelp about their work and trends they are seeing in the industry. Let's welcome today's guest, Gene Hamacher. Welcome, Gene.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Now, Gene, I haven't personally written about TechHelp, so this will be a great intro for me and our viewers as to what you do. What's the mission of TechHelp and who do you serve?
So TechHelp is part of a nationwide organization. Every state has a group like TechHelp. The problem that gets confusing is that we're all called different things. Idaho, we're called TechHelp. If you were in the state of Washington, it'd be Impact Washington. But our job is to help with small to medium-sized manufacturing companies. Specifically, we do training, consulting, coaching. We focus on companies usually about 10 to 100 people. My personal area, kind of my sweet spot, if you will, I do a lot of continuous improvement training, leadership development. But if it's something where even I'm maybe not the best resource, I still try to be a conduit of information. So if a company is better working with, say, the Small Business Development Center, I try to get them connected there. If there's resources at the Department of Labor that would help better, then I try to get them connected there. But bottom line is we try to meet with the small companies that aren't necessarily going to hire a real high dollar consultant, but we try to come in and help them as much as we can. And also within Idaho, we're a little unique where we're part of the university system. So I myself, I'm a University of Idaho employee. Part of TechHelp is Boise State University employees and part is Idaho State. So the nice thing there is we can also bring to bear some of the university resources. So it's kind of a vague mission, but it's intentionally so that, we're here to help whatever that may be. And if I can't help you, then I try to find help for you.
Wonderful. That's great to hear about that. Now, what's a success story from TechHelp?
I would say there's kind of two different versions. One I'll say is I've worked, personally with some small manufacturing companies around here in North Idaho. I should mention I'm based in the Coeur d'Alene area, so I do a lot of work in North Idaho. But a company of like a dozen people, and it's a family-owned business. And I've gone in and helped them with, just some basic lean manufacturing training, some, workplace organization. And so that helped them kind of get cleaned up. And then that led to, well, maybe we should rearrange the place a little bit. And so once they did that, they started realizing, well, we have a lot of inventory in the wrong places. So we kind of got that cleaned up. And that led to just a little bit of rearranging. And they suddenly found that, oh, we could be a lot more efficient at this. And as they did that, they were able to actually perform better to their customers. And they actually were able to grow the business with their current customers just because their performance was improving. Now, and I should also point out, I didn't go do all of this work. My job is to more train, coach, advise. I want the company itself doing the work. I mean, there's that theory that, if you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. But if you teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. TechHelp, we're very much in the teach people to fish business. We want them to become self-sustaining. And then we'll come back in and sort of help them with the next phase of what they're doing and just try to be around. And we also try to focus on being local. Like for me, my territory is Northern Idaho. I spend my time driving around, meeting with companies to see what their needs are. So it's kind of a nice system where being part of the university, I get some connections that way to where I can see what does a company need for help and then just try to help them in any way I can.
Great. I have a couple of follow-up questions on that. Now, is the service that you provide grant-based or is a small business paying for that service?
That is an excellent question, Jennifer. It's both. We are grant funded at the federal government level, both out of Department of Commerce, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, but our grant requires us to also generate matching funds. So we do charge for any of our larger projects. I'll come by and visit a company and spend a few hours with them and just help them out. That I generally do. I do that. I call it a free assessment, but it's really more than assessment. It's also a little bit of help. But if we get into, say, multi-days of training or larger projects, then we do charge for our services because we are required to generate matching fees.
Okay, and then Gene, just another follow-up question on that. Are you working more with the owners of the company or the managers or supervisors? What level of the company are you advising?
That's okay. That's got a really broad answer. I generally start with the owner of the company. We have what we call a discovery process. We always start out with what does the company need? What are their pain points? And that usually is with ownership or higher level leadership. But then generally you kind of get handed down into the organization where you can actually start making an impact. So I spend most of my time, I would say, with more the supervisor level. Now, keep in mind, some of these companies, the owner is the supervisor and is also doing some of the work. So, these smaller companies where it's like 6 people, that's all the same person. Bigger companies where, it gets up to say a couple of hundred people, I'll do some leadership development, and that often leads to, well, maybe we need to do some stuff out on the shop floor. So it's a weird thing where I have to be a little bit of a jack of all trades because I do bounce up and down through the org chart as I'm helping out.
How did you become involved and what is your background?
So it's going to sound like it was this great plan, but there was a whole lot of luck involved. So coming out of college, I went to work for Boeing over in Renton. I was a manufacturing process engineer, so I was out on the shop floor working on like quality improvement, bottlenecks in production. So it became known as lean manufacturing, but this was before it was even called that. So I learned that. I did that for about 7 years, 8 years. And then I went into operations management within Boeing and then moved over to the Boeing Spokane plant. So I had a chance to do more operations management, a little bit of engineering management. And when shortly after they sold the Boeing Spokane plant, I then left Boeing and went into teaching. So I started teaching things like continuous improvement and also some math and business classes because of my background. Well, then I found out about this job here with University of Idaho where you're teaching process improvement. So it really combined both of those. So it was this really cool place where my teaching background and, I'm being able to, reach out to, and I only teach adults because I tend to use a fair amount of humor and a little bit of sarcasm in my teaching methods. So it works great with adults. I don't think I should be teaching like middle school. I don't think I could do that. But teaching process improvement and then helping people do it, it's where I'm using all these different skills that I've gained over the last, I don't know, geez, 30 some years of doing this. And on that note, I'm actually planning to slightly transition my job. And so we just the other day posted a job opening with TechHelp here in North Idaho where we're going to bring another person on board to work with me. And then I'm going to kind of phase out and do some more specialized stuff. So it's one of these things where we need people that understand leadership, understand manufacturing. They can teach. They also understand process improvement. So it's kind of hard to find younger people that have those skills because it's kind of a whole career of things. But the goal is I'm hoping to bring somebody in to start working with me, and then I'll sort of move into some more specialized things.
Let's talk a little bit more about the services you provide and what impact those services have on regional businesses.
Yeah, one of the things that we're actually measured on as part of TechHelp is we do follow-up surveys with all of our clients. So we want to find out, did we make a difference? So we always do a follow-up survey. And in a typical year, TechHelp is going to work with probably 100 companies. Some of them are going to be just spend a few hours with them and help them out. One of the other things that we do at TechHelp that's kind of unique is we also offer some engineering services and prototype fabrication stuff, which we do some of that down at Boise State University. And we also actually have 2 students, interns over at NIC, North Idaho College, at Gizmo, the makerspace over there. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but cool little makerspace. But we do prototyping as well. So when we do that, we also try to help companies out with anything that, will assist them with getting products to market. But, we probably work with about 350 different people during the course of the year. We measure things like, I actually wrote a couple of things down here that we try to measure, are we helping with retaining jobs? Are we helping to create jobs? And we usually, in a given year, we're somewhere around, either creating or saving about 300 jobs through companies making process improvements. We generally see, if you look at like lead time when in the process improvement, my area, usually see lead times, reduced by about 50% as we're doing that. Um, One of the metrics we look at is, are we helping companies grow, generate sales? And in a typical year, it ends up being about $150 million across the state of Idaho, where companies are either making savings, growing their business. So when you look at it, it does become a really big impact. And TechHelp we're only about 14 people. So it's kind of cool to see how much we can do, with just a small group of people by helping companies, but then helping companies help themselves. I think that's where the real benefit is.
Great. Well, because you're out and about so much, what trends are you seeing in the regional aerospace manufacturing industry, and what concerns do you have? And what are those solutions for some of those concerns?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, right now everybody's talking about, trying to find employees. And that's something where there's not a lot I can do other than offer, tell companies, try to be more creative, don't just do the same old things. But the place where I can have an impact is, I think, every company in, well, any manufacturing, but specifically aerospace, the customers want better, faster, cheaper. I mean, that's their demands are, hey, we're going to need you to introduce products faster. We're going to need better quality, but we're not going to pay you more for that. So what I'm out there doing is trying to help companies improve their processes, understand their processes. I mentioned lean manufacturing. I do a lot of Six Sigma, but I don't go intense into statistics. That's more collecting data, and data could just be good, bad. I mean, that's still data. But I think companies are going to continue to get pressure on, can you give us better quality? Can you reduce your prices? That's, a lot of the aerospace around here is part of the food chain going to Boeing. And that's just how Boeing is going to be. The other thing I'm seeing is companies needing to collaborate more. As Boeing moves more into an integrator of just the final product, they've kind of gotten out of fabrication of parts. I think, I look at what NWAC is doing, based there in Liberty Lake, with companies trying to get them to work together to where they can collaborate and deliver a higher value added product to the end customer. The other trend I'm seeing that I haven't figured out a good way to do this, but I would like to see more is, regional jets, business jets. That part of the market is doing really well. And we don't do a lot of that around here in the inland Northwest, at least. And I would love to see a few companies get some inroads into there, maybe possibly get some of those, the tier ones in that world to start coming over here. Like for that, we have our annual I-90 Aerospace Corridor Conference and Expo, and I would just love to see some companies that are more in the regional jet, business jet, and also now, the new stuff with electric, what's happening there with, we're starting to look more and more at electric aircraft, smaller aircraft, almost, basically a drone that's carrying people kind of thing. I'm hoping that, the people in this area stay in touch with that, because I think that's where the growth is going to be. I mean, Boeing is pretty predictable and they're a great customer for so many companies here. But I think diversifying is a good thing because, Boeing does have its cycles of up and down, which I'm familiar with from working there for, I guess about 16 years. But having some offsetting products in other aerospace markets, I think, can help quite a bit.
I appreciate you mentioning the I-90 Aerospace Corridor Conference, because we're both involved in that. And it is a great conference for our region to get involved with. I know we have hundreds of manufacturers here regionally that can join us at that. That is May 30th and 31st in 2023. So Gene and I will both be there on hand. So Gene, any other thoughts as far as your hope for the future of the industry and the role that TechHelp can play?
My hope is, I focus mostly on incumbent existing companies that are already here. So helping them improve, helping them do better, grow their business. But I also try to collaborate with a lot of the economic development organizations that are looking at bringing other companies in here. I mean, there's a few companies in this area. There's one that I'm very fond of that's over in Hayden, Idaho, that, I mean, the guy moved his company here because he liked golfing here. So, I mean, I know that's a stretch, but I love the fact that this area has these really cool natural resources and people love living here, and especially smaller companies that can bring their companies here. So I've become a pretty big part of, the, I guess, tourism even for this area, because I think people loving living here, they bring their businesses. And now with remote work happening more and more, people move to the area that are working from home. I think that can continue to open up more doors. but that requires all of us working together. It can't be just me. It can't be just the SBDC people. It can't be just Department of Labor for training. So I'm a big fan of, and that's why I like the I-90 conference, the aerospace conference, is because we all come together. We're not worried about who gets credit. We're just worried about how do we help everybody. It's that whole, the rising tide floats all ships. And especially in the inland Northwest, we're a little isolated, not too bad, but a little bit. I think if we all work together, regardless of the state line, I work for the state of Idaho, but I spend a lot of time over across the border working with my buddy Nick Wilkes with Impact Washington, because companies don't care that there's a state line. So I think us working together really does help this region, and it brings a new industry. We get, a little bit more weight as a region. We get better training. So, kids coming out of college stay here and work here. I think that all starts to happen. So I'm a huge fan of the collaboration model personally.
Well, Gene, thank you so much for coming onto today's vlog to share more about TechHelp and the work you're doing in Idaho. To find out more about the programs, be sure to check out their website at techhelp.org.
Thanks, Jennifer.
And thank you. If you're interested in being interviewed on this program and have been profiled in the magazine in the past, please email Dean Cameron to dean@northwestaerospacenews.com. And until next time, keep on engaging with Northwest Aerospace News Magazine for full feature stories about the manufacturing and aerospace industry. Take care and goodbye.